All right, 2 years later, remembering, reflecting, and resisting. Let's get further perspective from Malana Ibrahim Musa. Today will be episode 4 in this week series that we are having. Started it on Monday, was episode 1, and been having the series unpacking with Malana Ibrahim Musa what has this genocide, this 2 year genocide. Obviously, we know it's been going on for over 7, close to 8 decades now. But this current period of the 2 years of genocide, what exactly has it done to the people of Palestine and globally? America, Israel, all the other big role players. Malana Ibrahim, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We hope that you are doing well.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته معنا Alhamdulillah, everything very well, Jazakallah khairan. On this day, inshallah, that there is a glimmer of hope coming from Gaza. At least they let off of almost 2 years, more than 2 years of this sustained violence, inshallah. We only pray and hold the greatest hopes that this translates into something meaningful and long term.
Inshallah, inshallah, that is our dua. So, Israel is losing America. Quantify one of the biggest shifts brought on by this genocide.
Exactly, Mona. So this series has been looking at 2 years of Israel's global decline, and the whole point is the scenes are bleak from Gaza. Israel seems to have wreaked total devastation on Gaza. But while we focus on that genuinely with one eye, we also need to look at how this has brought about such significant shift in the world that Israel won't be able to extricate itself from. And I just looked recently at there's just a flurry of articles on mainstream media outlets, Newsweek, Politico, The Economist, and these are the kind of headlines that they're running. Is MAGA, which is the uh, Make America Great Again movement in the Republican Party, is MAGA turning against Israel? How Israel is losing America? How an entire generation of Americans is turning on Israel. Those are the headlines. And then we look at the quotes. U.S. Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, this is from within the Republican Party, putting out a ultimatum. You can't find words as brazen like this in American politics before. You can bring it on. I'm totally ready for this, and this is a fight that I will fight and I will give it my all, and I can guarantee you, you're going to lose because America is fed up. And she made this accusation that Israel is committing genocide in Gaza, and she demanded that AIPAC register as a foreign lobby. So it's really beyond individuals. There's a movement. There's a definite shift that's occurring in the United States of America. Particularly, we know that within the Democrat base, this was long the case, but now this is perhaps the more significant part of it within the MAGA base, within the Make America Great base, which was a significant player in bringing Trump to power. And here we get the figures like Steve Bannon was the former chief strategist of Trump. He's saying on his podcast that there's very little support for Israel. And you then have the figures such as, everybody has seen other significant figures such as Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens, and what they've said recently, about the United States of America and its support for Israel. And the polls also bearing this out, Molana, that the share of Americans who back Israel currently is at a 25-year low. 42% of Americans in 2022 had an unfavorable view of Israel. Now that's 53%. Only 32% of US adults currently support Israel's actions in Gaza. The 43% of Americans say Israel is committing genocide in Gaza. And if this is amongst older Americans, then one can imagine, and the polls also bear this out, that the number falls drastically when you come to younger Americans. They have nothing in common with Israel, and they have no love left at all for the apartheid state of Israel. If we don't want to take all of these other indicators, then take what Trump himself said to a pro-Israel donor, where he reportedly said, "My people are starting to hate Israel."
Wow, subhanallah. That is really, really interesting. Jazakallah so much for sharing that with us, Marana. Very, very, very interesting to see what is happening in America about Israel. Now, what are the factors that explain the change of attitude amongst Americans to Israel?
So many people are saying that it's the factor that has moved uh, basically all of humanity, not only the Americans, that is critical in explaining the shift, which is the brutal transparency of this live streamed genocide. That unlike everything that had occurred previously in Palestine, yes, it was occurring, but it didn't reach this level of exposure. This time, the horrifying reality has been live streamed, it's been tweeted, it's been broadcast around the world, raw and uncensored. And the images, as we all know, nothing short of harrowing, especially when it comes to the effects of this particular genocide on children. And there is something that we understand in our deen, which is fitrah. And regardless of where a person stands in terms of how society and their parental influences have shaped them over time, there's something about the innocence of a child that will always, strike a chord within a person deep down. And interestingly, Sami Hamdi mentioned this a number of times during his presentations in South Africa, and perhaps all over the world, where he traces the shift in Candace Owens. And he puts it down to an interview that Candace Owens had done with Norman Finkelstein. And, Norman tried to convince her about, Israeli culpability and the Israeli crimes by, going into a lesson on history and thereafter, stating all the facts and figures. And that didn't really succeed in moving Candace. She was still combative and pro-Israel at that particular point. But he says there was a complete meltdown when he reached out to her as a mother and said, "You are an expecting mother. Would you like this to happen to your children?" And that brought about a sea change. And in his assessment, that was the moment Candace Owens definitively started a shift to be able to question the Israeli state. Also, we know this, Americans are very religious, particularly the right wing element of, or the conservative element of the Republican Party. And, they looked at this purely through an evangelical prophecy lens. But when they see churches being attacked, when they see the Israeli approach to Christians themselves, this has brought about a change. We've seen shifts as well. There's theories about why Charlie Kirk was assassinated, and also a lot of discussion about the Epstein files and whether Epstein was actually a front for the Israelis, and this has also had an impact within the shift within Republicans towards towards questioning Israel. So those are some basic factors, but there are broader factors, and one has to look at what MAGA, what Make America Great Again, actually represented. When it started off, there are the slogans, but it represented a collective revolt against the elites in America. So the political elites, the economic elites, and this was seen as a grassroots struggle. And they found in Trump, obviously, a person who they felt it's a contradiction nonetheless, but they found him a person who seems to, speak it as it is and challenge the elites. And when they are challenging the elites, now we understand that America, the American establishment, the American elites are very much intertwined with Israeli interests. So naturally, if you are challenging as a grassroots organization the American elites, it is inevitable at some point that you are going to come into a clash with Israel itself, because American and Israeli interests and elites are so well connected. And we have this particular MAGA base now questioning, why is Israel such a big issue in America? Why are American states? Why is the White House saying that we won't give aid to particular states in America if they don't sign anti-boycott clauses? And uh, this has led to questions about the disproportionate role of Israel in American politics amongst this particular base. Why, when we want to be America first, is America allocating such an excessive amount of its resources to the state of Israel? Why is there a decay in our infrastructure in the United States of America and economic hardship, and Israel is getting a blank check from Israel? So this was a base that was traditionally pro-Israel, but all of these factors coming together, and America getting more involved in the Middle East instead of less involved, as the promise was from Trump. This has all led to a sea change, and then questioning the viability and the value in this relationship.
Jazakallah so much for that. Our final question for today: will this shift then translate into a change in American policy? I suppose the big question, eh?
Exactly. So we have the Democrats, shattered or divided, and the Republicans divided now by this question of support for Israel. But we go back to the fact that, do we have a fully functioning representative democracy in the United States of America? Or do we have what is called a plutocracy, which is a system where political power is disproportionately shaped and wielded by the wealthy? And this speaks to the fact that even with whatever public sentiment is in the United States of America, with enough money, any election can be swayed or can be bought by particular lobby groups in the United States of America. So when the donor class in America is still overwhelmingly pro-Israeli, and candidates still rely on that to be able to navigate this political system, then perhaps we don't have a clear route, or we do not see the effect of the change in the base, then moving over to a change in policy or a change in the representatives, those who make this particular policy. But we do have to recognize that Trump is a complicated character. Trump wants the money of all these lobbyists, but he also sees that it goes against what he perhaps fundamentally stands for, and he is not an ideologue, pro-Israel ideologue like Biden, and in that way, he is somebody who is probably trying to find a way to navigate out of this particular area, but he's obviously trapped by his own contradictions and his own personality in this particular regard. So the sum total of this particular discussion, Mona, is that as Israel becomes more isolated over its war in Gaza, it is depending entirely on America. And if within America there's a sea change of opinion, then it is definitely placing Israel in the long term in jeopardy, because its sole source of support now is the United States of America. This, perhaps for us around the world, highlights the real nature of the confrontation, that this is not only a battle against Israel, but it's also a battle very much against the global empire of the United States of America. We may not see the effect of this base in American policy immediately, but long-term shifts in public opinion take a while to develop, but they will have profound impact on the public discourse and public policies in the United States of America for sure in the long run. And this is once again a testimony of the wide-changing shifts that have occurred in the world due to Tufan al-Aqsa, due to the resilience and sumud of the people of Gaza.
Subhanallah. Very, very, very well said and very, very beautifully explained. Ma, Jazakallah so much for your time.
Barakallahu feekum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. That